This should be far from a hot take, but I think Heatran is going to be stupidly good once it goes live in VGC. But hey, let's jump into the showdown and let the stats do the talking there. So Heatran here is a fire steel type. It's been around since the days of Generation 4, meaning it's almost 20 years. Oh. It's nearly 20 years old, but hey, let's jump into its stat breakdown as well as its typing. So as far as our stats go, we got 91 HP, 90 attack, 106 in each defense, 130 special attack, and then 77 speed. 77 is a fairly flexible number there because you can play it in either Trick Room or Tailwind. You don't really need to go one way or the other. Heatran can be able to do pretty much what it wants in either or situation wise. Depending on how you want to play it, though, might determine how you EV train it, of course. But you could play it in either Trick Room or Tailwind and then go from there. As far as our typing goes, we have an immunity to poison, and we actually have more 4 times resistances than we do regular resistances. So we have 4 times resistances to grass, fairy, ice, steel, and bug. And then we resist dragon, normal, psychic, and flying. And then as far as the weaknesses go, we only really have the weaknesses to water and fighting, and then 4 times weakness to ground. And because of terastallization, you can definitely get around that ground type weakness. You could also slap an air balloon item on it to just keep it safe from ground types as well, or a Shuka Berry to reduce the amount of damage from a ground type attack. But I digress. Because of terastallization and item options, Heatran is going to be wild this generation. So as far as our abilities go on Heatran, we have 2 options here. We have Flash Fire, which gives you a straight up immunity to fire while giving your fire type attacks a 50% boost if you get hit by a fire type move. And then you have Flame Body, which has a 30% chance of causing the target to get burned. Now, you are probably going to want that Flash Fire for the extra damage potential with Heatran as well, because terastallization is a thing, and because we can get rid of our fire typing, being able to still be immune to fire type attacks is just wonderful, especially since what I was thinking was Tera Grass, Tera Steel. They could both be really good typings on Heatran, and by going with one of those 2 Tera typings and pairing it with Flash Fire, you're losing 1 extra weakness right there. So that is a really handy ability. Now, there are some situations for Flame Body. Who knows? You might have a Flame Body Heatran, and it's not the end of the world if you want to try Heatran with Flame Body, because that 106 defense stat is really nice for a defensive mon as well. And if you pair a Rocky Helmet with Heatran and you take a physical attack and manage to burn the opponent with Flame Body, that's still really nice as well. But we're going to be mostly looking at Flash Fire for these sets. So what I was thinking here is we could do a really standard, slower, bulkier attacker for one set here with Safety Goggles as our item. We can go either Tera Fire, Tera Steel, or Tera Ground to take advantage of stab on Heat Wave, Flash Cannon, or Earth Power. Now, if you go Tera Ground, you're only going to get a 50% boost on the Earth Power, whereas if you go Tera Fire or Tera Steel on Heat Wave / Flash Cannon, depending on which of the 2 typings you go with, you're getting your double stab, and that could be really handy as well. With Heat Wave, it's also a spread move, which can just hit the opponent really hard in doubles, and if you get it down into a situation where it's only a single target, well, that Heat Wave is just going to be a straight up nuke right there. Now, if you go Flash Cannon, that's naturally a single target move right there. It's only 80 base power, but if you have that double steel type stab, you're looking at 160 right there. Now, I do have Safety Goggles on this Heatran, but if you wanted to, you could run Life Orb, you could run Choice Specs. Actually, we have a Choice Specs idea later on to discuss, but if you want to increase that damage potential, you still can. And the nice thing here is Heat Wave and Flash Cannon just synergize so nicely, not only just from the stab typing, but you can get around Wide Guard because you have Heat Wave to hit both targets if you need to, but if your opponent's bringing Wide Guard, you can still hit them with Flash Cannon. And the nice thing about Flash Cannon too is chances are you can hit what resists fire either neutrally or super effectively with steel, with the exception of what overlaps with both of those is water. And hey, if you go Tera Grass, well, there's a grass type Tera Blast option right there to cover that weakness. Now, back in Generation 8, Heat Wave, Flash Cannon, and Earth Power were the big 3 moves to run on Heatran because Dynamax would turn those into Max Flare, Max Steel Spike, and Max Quake. Wow, I almost forgot what Max Quake was. But anyways, the idea was there is you could either set Sun with the Max Fire type attack, you could get a defense boost with Max Steel Spike, and you can get a special defense boost with Max Quake. Because that's no longer a thing, that third attacking option can open up. Heatran gets access to Dragon Pulse if you wanted to just hit some things neutrally, or if you're worried about Dragon types giving you a hard time, you could do that. It gets access to Power Gem, which I don't know if that's been a thing all this time or not, but it does get access to Power Gem so you can hit flying types rather effectively, and that could be really good. Now, some other Tera options you could go with, aside from the main three attacking options that I mentioned, is if you wanted to go with a defensive option. Here's some things that do scare you as a Heatran. Urshifu. Both of them. So, if you wanted to, you could go Tera Fairy if you wanted to. You resist single strike Urshifu's Wicked Blow as well as close combat. You're neutral to Rapid Strike's Surging Strike's attack right there, which is handy because, Rapid Strike is a guaranteed crit off of Surging Strikes, which is 3 hits back to back. So if you're running a Focus Sash, for example, and not necessarily the most bulkiest of Heatran, chances are you're going to go down to a Surging Strikes, and plus Urshifu has Unseen Fist as its default ability, so it's not even like Protect can save you. But I digress. If you wanted to go Tera Fairy, you get around that as well. If you went Tera Flying, you become resistant to fighting type attacks. You also become immune to ground type attacks. So there you go. Bye-bye 4 times ground weakness at the cost of becoming weaker to a couple of different typings. But your natural base stabs do tend to overlap with flying's weaknesses right there. So then it becomes a guessing game in a closed team sheet format for your opponent. Will they Tera or will they not Tera? Or if you're playing in an open team sheet, they know you got the Tera flying. The question is do I Thunderbolt them? Do I Ice Beam them? Or do I go for the water type attack? That's the other question, what you could do right there with Heatran. So that's what I was thinking for one idea there as far as our moves go. Now let's talk about the stats that I have going into this bulky Heatran. Is we have 180 to hit 189. We have 36 in each defense, and this is kind of like more or less just to kind of patch up the defenses a little bit. So you hit 131 with that 36 in each defense. And if you have a screen setter, like say maybe Grimmsnarl or Klefki, you can reduce the amount of damage that Heatran's taking with the screens, obviously. So that 189 coupled with the 131 in each defense is just nice. And there's kind of something just appealing to look at those numbers right there because of the even matching between the defense and special defense. On top of that, we're going to invest heavily into our special attack. We're running a modest nature on this, so we're hitting 200 points even with max investment. And then finally, we have 4 points remaining in speed. This is going to be more of a slower Heatran because it's more bulk-based, but if you wanted to make some adjustments right there, maybe we take out the defensive investment, maybe bring it down to 12 in each. We can hit 104 with 52. If we wanted to drop that down to 4 and 4, we can hit 106 right there. Maybe if we wanted to take 4 more points, or 1 more point, I should say, 8 more EVs out of that and hit 76. Now we hit 107. Now we outspeed Dragapult under Tailwind. Just like that, we can now function under Tailwind. We're a little less bulkier, but I digress. Now you have speed on your option for Tailwind with Heatran, or you can still kind of play a little bit more slower, and then that way, if you're forced into the Trick Room dynamic, at least, Heatran's not naturally the fastest thing out there, so you don't have to worry about necessarily being the slowest thing under Trick Room. Now, another idea that I was thinking of too is you could run an Assault Vest on Heatran as well, and we're going to take a look more at the stat breakdown for this side because I've already kind of mentioned all these moves as well. But with a hindering nature and absolute 0 IVs into speed, you're clocking out at 73 speed. That's not terrible, and what you could do here is maybe if you want to run like a Heatran like that, maybe you would want to run Tera Grass if you're going to play it in Trick Room. And the main idea for Tera Grass is now we're immune to Spore from both Brute Bonnet and Amoonguss right there. Now we can hit them rather hard. If we wanted to, we could run an Assault Vest, but I feel like an Assault Vest is kind of like a mixed bag right there. You could run it on a Trick Room team and maybe just play Heatran more towards the back of the team. Or what you could do is you could run a different item on Heatran so that you could run Protect, and then that way Heatran can just kind of protect itself if Trick Room needs to be either set up or reset. That's a thing there too. But the main idea why I just had the Assault Vest there was I just wanted to point out, with 60 EVs into your special defense, the Assault Vest gives you a 50% boost. You're looking at an extra 67 points. You can just invest more into your HP and your special attack if you wanted to. I have a little bit more defensive investment, but that does leave 4 EVs left over because of the way how 4 stats versus 5 or 3 stats break down. But if you wanted to get around that too, you could just say to heck with defense, go full investment into your special attack, or rather as full as you can get with that breakdown, because you have 60 points in your special defense. So with 220 you hit 195. That's not a huge difference from that 200 from the previous set I just had. And then with 228 HP, we are gaining more bulk on the health side, so we're going to be a little bit more specially defensive. We have that Tera Grass to protect us from Spore, and then from there, we also have Flash Fire to protect us from fire type attacks, so that's one less weakness for the grass typing. Now, if you wanted to here, like I mentioned, you could run Tera Blast. Now you can hit water types super effectively. Iron Bundle is a threat, but hey, if you force Iron Bundle into that Trick Room and Iron Bundle can't Tera, there you go. You just have a super effective grass type attack to just absolutely decimate an Iron Bundle. Another thing I was thinking too is we do have the choice specs, which I mentioned. Now, as far as the moves go, I was thinking one of two things for fire type options, and that is you can double up and go with Heat Wave and Overheat, or you can just go for a single fire type attack and then get a fourth move in there for extra coverage. Now, as far as Tera goes, maybe you want to go Tera Flying or Tera Fairy, you can go Tera Blast. But what I was thinking here is we have the specs Heat Wave to hit both targets right there. You have Overheat if you wanted just a single target fire type attack right there to just absolutely decimate something. You got Flash Cannon, you got Earth Power if you wanted to take those out. Like I said, you can go with Dragon Pulse, it gets Dark Pulse as well. On top of that, if you wanted to really go wild with the fire side, you could go Magma Storm, which it's a rather strong version of Fire Spin right there. It binds the opponent, they take residual damage, and then from there, you're basically just absolutely abusing the residual damage, kind of like what G-Max Wildfire did in Sword and Shield. Now, on top of that too, going a little bit further with the Magma Storm, if you wanted to, you could just patch up the accuracy right there with Gravity. Like, if you want to run Sandy Shocks with it, you could go Gravity, Magma Storm, and now just absolutely abuse the residual damage and build that up with the straight up fire type damage each time you attack with it. So yeah, anyways, that's what I think about Heatran there, guys. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and let's get the conversation going.